Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's lovely that you've come this evening to join me here. I'm very happy to see friends, family, colleagues here. The kind of people that wouldn't be grilling me at the end of the talk, as I'm suggesting. A dialogue is what I'm after, a sharing. I'm pleased to welcome today a number of colleagues from within the Carnegie faculty. Thank you all for coming. Just some of the people that I've been working with recently. It's been a privilege for me to work with recently. I've also got some friends, colleagues from other faculties within this university, from other universities who've travelled up to Leeds to be here, and some non-academics who've also made the effort to come to the university today. It's really good to see you all here. Thank you all for coming. I'd also like to thank, before I start, the behind-the-scenes colleagues who make it possible for people like me to do what people like me do. Particularly for this evening, it's Emma Gilbert and a total of 12 people that I counted that have made this lecture happen today. So thank you to all of them. I'd like to welcome particularly two members of the class of 2004, which is PhD graduates from Bristol University, both who've got the record for travelling the furthest to be at an inaugural lecture ever, I think. Pedro Ferreira from Coimbra University in Portugal, and Eric Hemmingson from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden. Thank you both for coming. It's really wonderful to see you both here. I'd also like to welcome my mum and dad, Barry and Sarah. That's a 600-mile trip for them to be here this evening in Leeds, coming up from Devon. Lovely for you to come. Thank you for coming. And I'd also like to welcome my partner, James, who hasn't fortunately had to travel so far, fortunately for me anyway, but has had to free up some time from Pilates schedule to be here. So thank you, James, for being here. So it's been said in the 21st century that knowledge is a key commodity, that we live in a knowledge economy. And like all universities, we're in the knowledge business. Through research, we generate and communicate knowledge. Through teaching, we disperse that knowledge amongst our students. Today, I'm going to be a bit cheeky and ask some pertinent questions, perhaps impertinently, about that knowledge. I want to ask some questions of that knowledge as it applies to human beings in a social, cultural and psychological sense. Questions like, what kind of human and social science do our societies want and perhaps need at this point in time? How might the kinds of research that support that and underpin that be conducted? And how can that research be shared in ways that help individuals, potentially, perhaps strengthen communities, and even support societies to negotiate the challenges of our times? So for me, these questions stem from a nagging scepticism, a doubt that generating knowledge about the human and social world is an adequate and sufficient goal for research. A loss of faith, if you like, in the ability of new knowledge to make the world a better place. Canadian medical sociologist Arthur Frank has suggested that new facts and new theories only increase our dilemmas. Facts and theories, even those that are true, don't necessarily help us decide on the right thing to do. And the challenge for intellectuals, scholars, researchers, Arthur Frank suggests, quote, is to help people make policy, clinical, corporate and personal decisions in a milieu of profound dislocation. To achieve this, I think we need research that helps us refocus on what it is that we value. Research that helps us make decisions, often ethical decisions, about what to do with the knowledge we have, what to do with what we know. So I've had several months to prepare for this lecture, which isn't necessarily a good thing, I've learned. I've tried to organise all the things I wanted to say, all those professorial insights, clever little ideas, into a coherent lecture. But I binned it, thrown it away, recently. And I binned it for three reasons. Firstly, because I'd still have been talking by this time tomorrow. We will be done by 7 p.m. Secondly, I binned it because of this man, Albert Einstein. Albert's remarks here helped me realise I was walking onto thin ice with this lecture topic, with my question. That I need, bearing in mind the esteemed colleagues present in the room, to present the lecture carefully that I maybe need to present it as an invitation. So my title is a question. Is there a light on behind what we know? That title's borrowed from a line in a song called Corridors, written by Katrina Douglas, who some of you here know. And I'd ask you this evening to think of that title as a poetic stimulus, if you like, to consider and reflect on the purpose, the value, and the kinds of social science research we need and want. Finally, I binned those original plans because I reflected on where my faith really lies. What's the most important thing I can share with you in this short time we have together this evening? Well, I decided that I don't necessarily have a great deal of faith in my own thoughts, my own opinions, or my own viewpoints, but that I do have a great deal of faith in the products of our research. Stories, films, songs, and performances that originate in our research participants' lives. So this evening I'm going to prioritise sharing some examples of this work. And the form of these examples, the form that they take, help me to ask the question of my title. So you'll notice throughout I've been saying our research. So while it's me that's been honoured with the title of Professor, and it is an honour for me, the work that lies behind this reward is not mine alone, but instead the result of a true and enduring collaboration. So for 15 years now, I've been working with my close friend, partner in crime, Dr Kitrina Douglas, who you might have heard was recently recognised as Leeds Beckett's Researcher of the Year. And I'd like to make it very clear before I start that the research and the ideas, the thinking that I'm going to share with you this evening is as much Katrina's as my own. So none of this would have happened without your contribution. So thank you, Katrina, for allowing me to talk about our work and for agreeing to contribute in person to the lecture. Okay. It's time for a story. Nine and a half stone. That's the weight of kit I was carrying in Afghan. It's like I was carrying my ex-wife around everywhere. I'm a machine gunner, so add it up. The weapon, kit, sidearm, and water, which I'd usually dump, save some weight, then drink someone else's. I carried plus 1,200 7.62 rounds. That's enough for 12 minutes firing. I carried mine in tins, which adds to the weight. You don't have to, but it keeps them clean, saves muck getting in the rounds getting out of line, which jams the weapon. So the extra weight's worth it, I reckon, because you don't want your weapon jamming. Courage and restraint, that's what they call it. I'm pretty good at the job. Used to come out top in range competitions. Maybe I should go back to it. They still need good gunners. But I don't know if I can after what's happened. I got a lot of hits in contact. That's what everyone always wants to know since I've been back. It's like, how many did you kill? And I'm like, it's none of your business. They don't understand it. In one contact, I got 3 confirmed kills and 4 injured. After I was like, yeah, get in there, we're celebrating, the adrenaline's going, you know, I got them. I got the Afghans who've just killed 5 of our guys. But then they told me there's a ricochet, went off a wall, killed a little girl in school. I can't believe I just told you that. I don't talk to anyone about that. Why have I just told you that? It took me months and months to tell my CPN that, but I still can't get it out of my head. There's a film with this little Afghan girl in, wearing these bracelets. I mean, I never saw the girl I killed. I don't know what she looked like. It was an accident. I know that. I never saw her. But I keep seeing this image of the girl from the film in my head. And I've caused a lot of trouble since I've been back. I can tell you it's 2 years since I've been back. But it doesn't feel like it, because I'm always thinking about it, running over events again and again in my head. Could have been yesterday I was there. It's not that I try and think about it, and I know I couldn't have done anything different to change what happened. It just keeps running over and over. Then suddenly I'll find myself flipping out. You know, someone will cut me up on the road. I'll go into a rage, I'll follow them, I'll chase them until I find where they live. I've hurt people. I've hurt people for no reason. I've put people in hospital since I've been back. Just flipped out. I'm thinking, this isn't normal. What's wrong with me? They never believed there was anything wrong with me. I realised I was ruining my life, other people's lives. I needed help before I ended up in prison. So I went back and pretty much flipped out with them too. Then they admitted, yeah, something's not right, you need help. So I got help. Now I have strategies to try and deal with it. Still wake up some nights soaked in sweat, wondering what just happened. I don't ever remember any of my dreams, but when you wake up like that, it's pretty obvious you had a nightmare, right? So I'll get up, go out for a walk or a jog on my own, come back, different person. Or I'll feel it coming on, just take myself off for a bit. And as a last resort, I have diazepam, which seems to work. I think it's just a placebo, because I know it's there and I can take it. I feel like I'm able to do something, make it okay, so I calm down. So I reckon those 2 years on my own, that's been hard in other ways, has helped me. It's easy to go right in with the solution before you really know what the problem is. Sometimes it takes a bit of time to work out what the problem really is. It took me a long time to realise that little girl was going round and round in my head. I had to get those images out of my mind. They're still there, but before, they were there somehow without me knowing it. Now at least I know it, so they're not there all the time. A while back, I couldn't have talked to you like this. It's like a jigsaw puzzle that was all separate pieces. But now, the puzzle's half done, and halfway there. This last month's really transformed me. 2 weeks at the personnel recovery unit, and this week here at Battleback. Before, I wasn't bothering about myself. I wasn't shaving, my beard was out here, my hair was long, it was a mess, I went AWOL, different jobs, didn't care about myself. You know, I'd be home with my brother, nothing to do, bickering, blah, 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 this and that. And then my wife leaving me when I needed her most. But lately I've had a chance to get away, a change of people, different place. Like here at dinner now, we're all here together, right? We've all been through the same stuff. We all understand, you see. So I can relax, not worry about stuff. But when you're on your own for a year or more, nothing to do, that on its own is enough to drive you crazy, you know? So getting into these kind of environments, like here at Lillishall's, really helped me feel confident in myself again. It's brought a bit of structure, things to do that's missing if you're at home. And the climbing, that was so much fun. I just loved it. If it carries on like this, I'm going to have a smile around the back of my head by the end of the week. I haven't felt this good for a couple of years, I'd say. That day on its own has made me feel positive about things. Things I can do I wouldn't have thought I could do anymore. Got back to myself as I used to be. And while I was climbing, I just got lost in it while I was doing it. The usual thoughts and images just went away. Just thinking about what I was doing at that moment. Big thing for me now is how do I sustain the good stuff after this week? What can I do to stay in this head place I'm in now? That's what I'm worried about. I'm 27. Got to think what I can do next. Got ideas for a couple of businesses. I want to work on them with my brother, my sister. I think it'd be good for them too. And I'm lucky, man, I'm lucky. Met lots of other guys in much worse situations than me. I don't even think I should really be here this week, taking up a place on the course, you know. I'm a taker, not a giver. I don't want to take when I know there's other guys that maybe need it more. But maybe there's something I can give. I don't know. To help other guys in some way. I don't know what it's going to be, but, you know, maybe. Okay, the story you've just heard, Scott's story, comes from our research at the Battleback Centre, Lillishall in Shropshire. It's funded by the Royal British Legion, as many of you know, and it's a relatively new sport and adventurous training intervention that started in 2011. It's for British military personnel who have experienced physical or psychological trauma through their work. The 5-day residential courses are delivered by teams of coaches from Carnegie Grade Outdoors, and an academic team led by Carlton Cook, sitting at the back, was commissioned to evaluate the course. And Katrina and I are part of that team, and we've been using narrative methods to try to understand the personal meaning and value of that course. So there's quite good, I think, public awareness now about physical consequences of the conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. They've received quite a lot of media coverage. These recently published photographs by Brian Adams, I think, really begin to get under the skin, to focus our attention on some of the personal costs that might otherwise slip from public awareness. But what happens when the personal costs are not physically visible? Very often psychological issues remain out of sight, for many of us out of mind. And this is dangerous, both for the individual soldiers like Scott experiencing them, but also for society more generally, as Scott's story shows. Our research is an attempt to understand and unearth these interior worlds, hopefully drawing attention to these psychological, emotional, social and cultural realities. So Scott's story that you just heard is one of a series of personal portraits developed during our fieldwork, where we join with soldiers and participate alongside them in all aspects of the week. And in that work we see the soldiers themselves as the experts. They're the experts of their own lives. Our role is to listen and learn. So we're students of their life experiences. So we do research with people, not on people. And that was literally the case with producing these stories, as each soldier shared with us in snippets through the activities of the week, meal times, bus journeys on the climbing wall, before collaborating with us to write the story and to ensure that they were happy that it was a faithful account of their experiences. So our research is something akin to a process of witnessing, distilling and amplifying, with the aim of crystallising and sharing wisdom. Laurel Richardson, a now retired professor from Ohio State University, began an influential essay in 1994 with these words: "I have a confession to make. For 30 years, I have yawned my way through numerous, supposedly exemplary qualitative research studies. Johnny Saldana, professor at Arizona State University, says the first rule of theatre is do not bore. Russell Brand tells us that a social political revolution is needed, but that it must not be boring." So it's now a national, even an international issue. The recognition that too much research has no beneficial effect on the real world, on people's lives. Some would say that we become irrelevant, academic. So there's now pressure, I think rightly, to stop doing and writing research that's read by at best just a few students, a small number of specialists, to try to find instead ways of doing and sharing research that have an opportunity to achieve some kind of social impact that can engage the public in what we do. So I've been in academia for 25 years since the start of my undergraduate degree, and I think I've probably gradually become more and more frustrated at how much human social research is inaccessible to normal people outside academia, that is. So the reason our research isn't accessed or accessible isn't because it doesn't have something interesting or useful to say. There's wisdom in our participants' accounts, I think. It's helped me with my life. I think it could help others too if we could find a way of sharing it in a palatable form. So because I believe our research has something to offer people, I've wanted to find ways to make it more accessible, more engaging, less boring. So for me, these are some of the fundamental hallmarks of the kind of human social science research that we need at this point in time. The film director Steve McQueen said, "Life's too short to make irrelevant films." He wants to make films that are essential, he said. He said he wants to make films that either people need or want. It's maybe a tough goal for research, but that's what I aspire to as well. One area of research that began as my doctoral research concerns the usefulness of sport and physical activity for people with mental health difficulties. Since 2001, Katrina and I have worked with a number of people, often with severe and enduring mental health problems, to try to understand how physical activity and sport can be useful for them. I'd like to pause now to show a short film from this research that Katrina's made. In Peter Chadwick's terms, the film, I hope, offers a positive perspective, and a positive perspective on a set of experiences that are more often portrayed in negative and sometimes damaging ways.
Planted it this evening, that tomorrow be something warm and strong and free. 'Cause I'm thinking of trading in everything's broken, maybe dreaming large enough that you'd eventually see. It's a fear of a fear, really. You're just frightened and you don't know why. Everything becomes out of touch. You're just frightened to death for some reason and you don't know why. And it's so intense, it just gets a grip of you. That's what a panic attack's like. And it lasts for about an hour, something like that. And then it's gone again. And then you think, well, what was I worried about? Then all of a sudden, you'll be all right for a few days or a few weeks. But all of a sudden, it will come back again. I had it in that last half marathon I ran. Not only was I thinking of keeping going, I had to deal with a panic attack as well. So I went 13 miles, and I was in a panic attack all the way around. I got out of it as I finished and had a shower. And as I was in the shower, it just disappeared. It was alright. I can sometimes bring it on, because I get so tensed up about the race, so nervous, that I actually bring an attack on. So really, I've got to try and concentrate on focusing on not having the attack, just getting around the race. And sometimes I can divert my thought, I'll be okay. All I've got to do is divert my thought. But it's hard to do. You've got to try and take your mind off it for just a few seconds and then it's gone. So I can get through it sometimes. Other times I need to lay down. I can't beat it. I used to do half marathons before I was unwell. When I was 21, I saw the marathons on TV and I thought, I'm going to have a go at them. And I started with a friend and we gradually built up, so I went through the pain barrier together. We ran to Dillsbury Common, shook hands afterwards. It was a real feat to do it. We conquered it. We actually got there. We got the running bug there. And later that year I did a 6-miler, a few half marathons, eventually a few 20-milers. And then when I was 29, I became unwell. For 4 years I didn't do anything. Went up to 21 stone. When I first started getting unwell, I had a paranoia illness, psychosis. Thinking people were following me, stuff like that. Had a lot of things go wrong, marriage breakup, a lot of failures, too much stress. And I was running and I think that was stressing me out as well. I was overdoing it, everything I was overdoing it. And it sort of spiraled out of control. When I became unwell, I stopped exercise. I became so unwell that I just couldn't do it. The medication was making me worse. It made me put on a lot of weight. And I couldn't do any exercise anyway, I was just so overweight. But then I had a change in the medication. When I got the right medication, I felt better and I thought to myself, well, I'll get back into running and keep fit again. I think the medication made me well enough to start thinking about my appearance. Because before I was neglecting myself. But I started shaving, I started bathing. And I got to the stage I had the confidence to come into the day centre every day. And eventually, I wanted to do the exercise again. I started gradually with Catherine, one of the physios. You know, if it wasn't for her, I don't think I'd have got back into it. Well, I would have got back into it, but not so soon. I think it was important for her to be there, first of all. It gave me a bit of confidence. Because I was so unwell, I wouldn't have had the confidence on my own, you know, thinking I was going to have a panic attack. But somebody was there I could chat to, take my mind off it. And I just gradually built it up. I lost a sufficient amount of weight to actually be able to run again. Started on the treadmill, about 5 minutes. Then I went for a run, about a quarter of a mile, just, you know, a few hundred yards. I started getting fitter and fitter. And eventually I was back. Well, apart from being overweight, I was back to normal again. You know, the first time I was out running again, I felt on top of the world. I was actually back to what I used to be like. It took me nearly 2 years. To get to where I am now, it's taken about 3. I'm so out of condition. 3 years ago, I was walking up Windbridge Fields with Rob and I had to keep laying down. I was so unfit. It's incredible. So overweight and out of condition, I had to lay down a few times, you know. But now I can run up there. Where I had trouble walking, I can run up it now. Well, I suppose in a way exercise is a bit of a drug. I want to do it to get that good feeling back again. I think it's better than drinking. You know, when you drink, you live in a dream world. At the end of the day, you've got to come back to reality, haven't you? You know, when you stop drinking. If you keep it fit, you're not living in a dream world. You're actually feeling better. You know, you're making yourself feel better. And you think more when you're running. You can work things out. Things that are bad don't seem that bad. Maybe it makes you face the problem head on. Makes you feel as though it's not that bad there in the first place. There's nothing really to worry about. Things become a little brighter. You sort of see things more clear and everything looks brighter. When I'm actually exercising, no matter what I feel like, I don't feel depressed. I feel I'm ready to tackle the day. You know? I'm nearly 100% now. It's just the odd attack every now and again. But other than that, I'm fine. And it just proves one thing, doesn't it? If I can do it, I realise that exercise does help. There's a lot of other people that can do it too. It's just having the right medication, right frame of mind, and exercising. You can totally get cured of mental illness, I reckon. And I think the exercise and the illness has made me value life more, you know. In a way, the illness has made me more conscious of life, feel better about life, how much it means. So this is my story, can you believe me? We make the journey. Yeah, we make the journey. We make the journey the way we want it to be.
Alec Grant, a colleague from Brighton University, works in mental health. He says that readers of mainstream policy-informed mental health literature would be hard put to spot a real, fleshed-out, life-contextualised person. Instead, individuals with problems in living are usually described as sanitised bundles of diagnostic labels, symptoms, emotions, cognitions, behaviours, or treatment outcomes. During my PhD work, what I read in the textbooks and journals that I could find was like that. It didn't fit with the people that I was meeting through doing the field work. I could have done with some of Alec's descriptions of some fleshed out, life-contextualised representations of people. Perhaps something like the film we've just watched, something to challenge those scientific portrayals, to provide a more humane picture. And perhaps our society needs them now as vehicles for personal, social, cultural change. In mental health particularly, I think they're needed on several levels. Firstly, they might be useful for people who are experiencing mental health problems themselves, to challenge the portrayals of them, perhaps provide some more optimistic, hopeful maps for living, opening horizons of possibility. rather than constraining or limiting possibilities. Secondly, perhaps mental health professionals need those too, to provide alternatives to those biomedical accounts in the mainstream literature, perhaps to recalibrate the low expectations that have been documented amongst some mental health professionals of what it is a person with mental health problems can achieve. And thirdly, maybe we all need to hear these kinds of stories, these accounts. People with mental health problems commonly identify stigma as the biggest problem, the biggest challenge they face in their lives. Notice that stigma lies with other people, with culture, with us. So it's not people with mental health difficulties that need to change, but the rest of us, everyone else. Perhaps accessible, engaging, informative stories are a way to help repair the ignorance that stigma usually depends on. And finally, because mental health touches all of our lives in one way or another, whether personally, as a family member, a friend, a work colleague, or just a fellow train passenger, we all perhaps have something to gain from research which offers, in Alec Grant's terms, fleshed out portrayals of real life contextualised people. But what might it be about these kinds of portrayals that's important? How can they perhaps encourage humane understandings? Well, two Brazilian scholars, Marcelo Diversi and Claudio Moreira, have observed that humans seem to focus on communality with the other only after personal emotional connections have been made. I'd agree with them. Coming to know and perhaps particularly identify with others, especially across boundaries of difference, only really happens, I think, through personal emotional connection. Facilitating these connections seems to me to be a further characteristic of the social and human science that we need at this moment. Yet in the role of the traditional social science researcher, although we may talk about emotions, does anyone actually experience them as a result of our research? We might analyse humour, but does our research make anyone laugh in a positive sense? We might deconstruct suffering, alienation, pain or loss, but does anyone taste these things through our studies? And we may argue the importance of relationships, but does the knowledge we produce relate? In one of his Reith lectures in 2013, Turner Prize-winning artist Grayson Perry observed that detached irony has become a default position in the arts. I have to protect my tender parts from that irony, he said. He talked of how beauty is important to most of the artists he's met, yet what those artists hold as beautiful is hidden, for protection perhaps, behind a thick shield of irony. I wonder if a similar scenario plays out amongst human and social scientists. In place of beauty are precious emotions like love and care, buried beneath the protective breastplate of science. Over the years I've read quite a bit of human and social science literature. It's taught me very little about love. To learn about love, I've had to engage in the arts, or in life itself, of course. But how can we, as human and social scientists, ever claim to understand another's experiences, behaviours, relationships, challenges, choices, if we don't engage seriously with what it is that these people care about, with what it is that they love? And I hope that the research I'm sharing with you this evening at least reveals an engagement with what I think are essentially important aspects of human experience. So, I'd like to conclude the lecture with two songs from two different research projects that Katrina and I have conducted, that we've also produced as live performances and also as audio CDs. The first song, Gwithian Sands, stems from research into the lives and experiences of older women living in rural areas of Cornwall. The song you're about to hear originated from life history research with one particular woman in her 70s living across the Tamar in West Cornwall. Second song, These Things, comes from research we conducted to explore the experiences and needs of a group of people aged 50 and over, living together under one roof in an urban supported housing scheme. This song relates the experiences of several of the residents, and you're also going to hear from one of the so-called housing support advisors employed to care for them. So to perform these songs, please give a warm welcome to my co-writer and co-researcher, Katrina Douglas.
Girls, come down to Gwithian Sands. Leave your labour, leave your lands. Come and run and dance with me. Be the woman you want to be. Sunlight came and went so fast. Winter chill and farther past. Away to where the spirits be. Now what's gonna become of me? Mother worked for all she knew. She was proud and she was true. Schoolmaster, he turned a blind eye, 'cause he knew he just couldn't get by. Young girl working on the line, small hands but she's doing fine. Working with men 4 times her age, but it means she gets a wage. Time moved on and she grew strong. Her brother, he was sent away to school. She never learned to write, but she's no fool. Girls, come down to Gwithian Sands. Leave your labour, leave your lands. Come and run and dance with me. Be the woman you want to be. Young men all went off to war, now in pain as well as poor. Sisters, come on, play your part, but all this killing in my heart. Time moved on and she grew strong, with children of her own to feed. She never learned to write. Seems she's no need. Girls, come down to Gwithian Sands. Leave your labour, leave your lands. Come and run and dance with me. Be the woman you want to be. Barbara Green moved into town, spewing smoke and laying down tarmac on golden fields of hay. Now where my children gonna play? Time moved on and now she's not so strong, with a husband who barely clings to life. She never learned to write. She's just a wife. Girls, come down to Gwithian Sands. Leave your labour, leave your lands. Come and run and dance with me. Let's be the women we want to be.
train ride out of the dark into the light, 'cause my guy was no good. A punch, a kick, a say goodbye, then 10 long years have passed me by. Now it's my time for good. Alone there on the intercity, sat and listened to me. And it's these things a bud, a drink, a drop, brought a little colour into my lot. It was high times, warm nights, until a doctor said it's time to stop. Put the bottle down before you drop. It was my time for a change of mind. Now I need a sanctuary, and an arm around me. And it's these things, it's these things, it's these things. Family man is what I was, and it's these things that brought me back from the precipice when illness hits, turning, spinning, now blown to bits. Was it my time? Who knows? Now I need an arm around me, beside me. It's these things, it's these things, it's these things, these things.
It's not our fault. It's because of the so-say management that changes have come in. The residents feel we haven't got time for them now. It's like we're not paid to care anymore. Going back it was caring, but not now. Now it's paperwork, and I don't like it. Too much paperwork. All the girls feel the same, and it's almost like you're there for the building, not the people. As long as the building gets checked, everything's okay, you know, fire alarm, intercom, blah, blah, blah. But me, I care about people. I want to be there for the people. Obviously, there's nothing we can do to change it. They've stressed it time and time again. It's not going back to that system.